morning, everyone. I am Francis Albert, your classmate for
Lesson 19. Laws and Policies on Violence and Discrimination of the Members of LGBTQ+. Here are the objectives. At the end of this class, you should be able to determine the various Philippine laws and policies for protection of rights of members of LGBTQ+, identify the different anti-discriminatory laws and policies, and know the acts leading to violations of these laws and policies. Definition of terms. Equal protection requires that all persons or things similarly situated should be treated alike, both as to the rights conferred and responsibilities imposed. This means that everyone in similar situations must be treated the same under the law. Due process principle that the government must respect all of a person's legal rights, as this ensures that all laws and legal proceedings must be fair and equal for all, meaning the government must follow fair procedures and respect people's legal rights. This equal protection and due process both ensure fairness and equality for all. The 1987 Constitution, Equal Protection and Due Process Clause, states that the state values the dignity of every human person and guarantees full respect for human rights. Apart from this, the 1987 Constitution enshrines in its due process and equal protection clauses that no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall any person be denied the equal protection of the laws, according to Article 3, Section 1 of 1987 Philippine Constitution. As the fundamental law of the land, the guarantees on equality, lawful processes, and the paramount consideration of ensuring human dignity and respect for human rights, and this provision serves as the basis for the protection of the rights of members of the LGBTQ+. Is ang Ladlad LGBT Party versus Comelec General Register 190582 on April 8, 2010. This considered as the breadth of equal protection clause in the Constitution. The court ruled in favor of allowing ang Ladlad to be a party list, reasoning that from the standpoint of the political process, the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender have the same interest in participating in the party list system on the same basis as other political parties similarly situated. Hence, laws of general application should apply with equal force to LGBTs, and they deserve to participate in the party list system on the same basis as other marginalized and underrepresented sectors. There are key vocabularies that we can get from that topic. First is the Equal Protection Clause. This is a constitutional guarantee that individuals in similar situations should be treated equally by the law. This means that this is a rule in the Constitution that says everyone must be treated equally by the law if they are in similar situations. For example, the law should not favor one group over other just because of their status or background. Next one is the party list system. This is a system of proportional representation in the Philippine Congress intended to give marginalized sectors a voice. On the other hand, this is a system used in Philippine Congress to help make sure that marginalized or underrepresented groups like farmers, women, or indigenous people have a voice in lawmaking. For example, a group representing workers can win a seat in Congress even without a large number of votes as long as they meet the minimum requirement. Next is the LGBTQ plus political participation. This is the right of LGBTQ plus individuals and organizations to participate in political processes, including the election. Is the LGBTQ plus political participation. This is the right of LGBTQ plus individuals and organizations to participate in political processes, including the election and representation system. This means that LGBTQ plus people have the right to join and take part in politics, including voting and being part of government decision making. For example, an LGBTQ plus group can form a political party or support a candidate. And the last one is discrimination. Unjust or prejudicial treatment based on personal characteristics such as sexual orientation or gender identity. This refers to unfair or unequal treatment of someone based on personal traits like sexual orientation or gender identity. For example, refusing to hire someone just because they're LGBTQ+ is discrimination. Another one is the violence and discrimination. Despite widespread anecdotal evidence of crimes perpetrated against the LGBTQ+ community in the Philippines, most data on these cases have not undergone official verification and collation. In March 2016, The Trans Murder Monitoring Project listed 41 reported cases of transgender people murdered in the country since 2008. For now, let's know about the story of Jennifer Laude case. The night of in October 2014, Jennifer Laude was brutally killed by Lance Corporal Joseph Scott Pemberton, a U.S. Marine. In its December 1, 2015 decision, the Regional Trial Court of Olongapo City ruled that Lance Corporal Joseph Scott Pemberton was guilty of homicide and not the murder alleged by the prosecution, sentencing Pemberton to prison for a period of 10 to 12 years. The court found no criminal intent to kill because of the presence of two mitigating circumstances, namely passion and obfuscation and intoxication. The court stated that in the heat of passion, he armed locked the deceased and dunked his or her head in the toilet. The court argued that it was the discovery of Jennifer Laude having male genitalia, which disgusted and repulsed Pemberton and caused such heated passion. Therefore, the court decided he had no malicious intent to kill, reducing the murder charge to one of homicide. And now, let's talk about the violence and discrimination against LGBTQ+ youth and education. First is the Anti-Bullying Act of 2013, or the Republic Act 10627, includes gender-based bullying prohibited and punishable act. Gender-based bullying is defined as any act that humiliates or excludes a person on the basis of perceived or actual sexual orientation and gender identity, or SOG. Next one is the Child Protection Policy 2012. In cases where bullying is committed by a principal, teacher, or any other school personnel, the law being violated is Department of Education Order Number 40 on Child Protection Policy. This policy includes the protection of students from any form of violence regardless of their sexual orientation or gender identity. The last one is the Special Protection of Children Against Child Abuse, Exploitation, and Discrimination Act of 1992, or Anti-Child Abuse Act, or Republic Act 7610. Parents of children who suffer abuse at the hands of teachers or members of the school's administration violates RA 7610 or Anti-Child Abuse Act. Such cases can cover instances of physical, psychological injury, or cruelty on the basis of child SOGI. Next is the violence and discrimination against LGBTQ+ in the workplace. The Labor Code of Philippines, Presidential Decree 442, national law covering employment for the private sector. With the exception of prohibition against discrimination of women, it does not contain any provision that prohibits discrimination on the basis of gender identity, particularly on the members of the LGBTQ+. Nonetheless, while the law is quite on gender identity and expression, it is clear in its Declaration of Policy, Article 3, that the state shall afford protection to labor, promote for employment, ensure equal work opportunities. This clearly mandate for equal opportunity and employment is clear, but the reality shows a different picture since members of the LGBTQ+ encounter hardship in accessing work opportunities because of discrimination. The absence of a national law that explicitly prohibits discrimination on the basis of gender identity makes it easier for employers to hide behind fabricated reasons for not accepting, firing, or depriving members of the LGBTQ+ of their employment benefits. Often passes on uniform documents and use of comfort rooms are used against members of the LGBTQ+ employees. And next is the Civil Service Commission Administrative Disciplinary Rules on Sexual Harassment. Cases includes other less grave punishable offenses. This include prohibiting derogatory and degrading remarks on and thus directed toward the members of one sex or one sexual orientation or used to describe a person. This rule applies to all government entities that fall under the civil service jurisdiction. The policy is important because it explicitly covers derogatory remarks regarding sex, sexual orientation, or other remarks that are used as description of a person with the intention to insult. In addition, this policy for government agencies does not require that the offender has moral ascendancy over the victim. The fact that the perpetrator and the victim are of the same level or position will not preclude the victim from filing a case. While gender identity is not specifically mentioned as a ground, if a LGBTQ+ civil servant is harassed verbally by co-workers, they would be able to rely on the generic protection from derogatory and degrading remarks. And the next one, what are the Supreme Court decided cases? First is the City of Manila v. Lagyo on April 12, 2005. General Registered Number 1118127, Court protected LGBTQ+ privacy including sexual relation. On the other hand, in the case of City of Manila v. Lagyo, the Supreme Court upheld adults' right to privacy and included the right to have sexual relations in the confines of their private lives. Next is Gualberto VCA on June 28, 2005, General Registered Number 156254. Court ruled a mother's lesbian relationship doesn't affect their parenting. In the Gualberto VCA and a custody dispute between a husband and wife, the Supreme Court awarded custody of a 4-year-old child to his mother despite the father's argument of immorality against his wife, who was allegedly in a lesbian relationship. This two decision of Supreme Court will surely have implications to the members of the LGBTQ community. Next is Silverio v. Republic of the Philippines on October 22, 2007, General Register Number 174689. Court allowed a transgender person to change gender on documents. In the 2007 case of Silverio v. Republic of the Philippines, the Supreme Court ruled against petitioner Silverio's wish to change her first name and gender marker on her birth certificate. Millie Silverio, who underwent sexual reassignment surgery, initially won in the Till Court. The Office of the Solicitor General, or OSG, intervened thereafter, arguing in the Court of Appeals that the Regional Trial Court of Manila was mistaken in its ruling due to the fact that there is no law allowing change of first name on the basis sexual alteration. The CA, or Court of Appeals, ruled against Millie Silverio, and the SC affirmed the CA ruling. In this case, the Supreme Court ruled that there was the mistake to be corrected, as the birth record is not disputed, as the sex of the person was determined by the birth attendant at the time of birth. It elaborated the sex as a term does not contemplate inclusion of persons who have undergone sex reassignment. Likewise, it argued that allowing her to change her name and gender marker will alter established laws on marriage and family relations. Lastly, Republic of the Philippines v. Jennifer Kagandahan on September 12, 2008, General Registered Number 166676, Court allowed a transgender person to change gender on documents. In the 2008 case of Republic of the Philippines v. Jennifer Kagandahan, the court ruled minor of a name change to Jeff Kagandahan on the ground that Jeff has intersex variation, congenital adrenal hyperplasia, or CAH. The court agreed with Jeff's ability to self-define his sex because he has simply let nature take its course and has not taken unnatural steps interfere with what he was born with. This focus on biological sex is consistent with the court's contrary position for transgender people, who are deemed to be attempting to change their biological sex. Apparent with the court favorably notes that Jeff could have undergone treatment and taken steps like taking lifelong medication to force his body into the categorical mold of female, but he did not. Furthermore, the ruling for the change of name clarified its effect on Jeff's gender marker, such as change will conform with the change of the entry in his birth certificate from female to male. The Philippines have various anti-discriminatory policies for members of the LGBTQ. However, these policies are not yet sufficient, and national law on anti-discrimination is still cases, and the EC already involves topics and issues of LGBTQ+, making this matter of high importance already. Nonetheless, the rampancy of discrimination of members of LGBTQ+ prevalent, a huge issue that the Philippines must address.